Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm talking to you about the things I just got in the mail from, I thought it was Kickstarter, but it might have been Comictopia, right? So, if you've been paying attention, um, been getting Kickstarters and Indiegogos from some of my favorite creators and some that I don't know as well, right? But there's all these books that you can get in these nice volumes. I think I talked to you about this Nexus thing before, but you have a deadline tomorrow or today, whenever I post this video. You have a deadline to get the collected version of Battle for Thuneworld, right? Now, Nexus is a comic book that I've been a fan of since the 90s. I didn't know much about it in the 80s, but it was one of the more celebrated comic books from the 80s. At the same time, it didn't light up the sales market. Now, it got interest for Steve Rude and Mike Baron because it was so critically acclaimed. Mike Baron immediately went to successful runs on The Flash, The Punisher, and a multitude of other things as a writer. Um, and then Steve Rude, who's primarily doing Nexus, he did lend himself out to DC to do Mr. Miracle, some pinups. Then he did the world. Well, I have some of the stuff here. Why don't I just show this, right? Well, that ain't it. I thought this was a book. For DC, he did World's Finest. And then, even though, I routinely bring up Rob Liefeld, he talked about Dark Horse being the not wanting to, the team didn't want to go to Dark Horse. They didn't really trust Michael Richardson. But Michael Richardson, even though Nexus was caught up in a lot of struggles as far as the copyright, Michael Richardson bought the copyright and then gave it back to Steve Rude and Mike Baron, and they did redid the origin, and then they did this miniseries. This miniseries, even though the most recent storyline, which is Battle for Thuneworld, comes out of this volume. Now I'm going to probably pronounce it wrong. The Coming of Gormando, right? This leads right into this. This was also a big Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I can't remember which one I got, but it was definitely worth the while and the wait. And then soon after, we got this that came out. Now you could buy this at the comic stores. They had offers where you can get these, and they didn't issue it all out until the stuff at the comic book stores all had been printed. So we got this. I just got this today. It also came with a art of Steve Rude from 2024. And if you saw the movie, if you were in any despair, it really looks like Steve Rude is back on track as far as doing stuff. But you can still get this volume, which did very well. And now they're going to have another volume of this that's coming out, which of course I had to get. And, but Battle for Thuneworld actually comes out of this, where Dave, his mentor, and like his sage counsel, goes back to Thuneworld, and his world has been struggling, and he goes there to fix it, and he winds up at the end of this story dead or near dead. So we find out the fate of Dave in this story, and to save Thuneworld, one of the early worlds that Nexus went to save. Now, I'm doing this to you right now, so you can go out and check out Comictopia. It's going to be till tomorrow or today, whenever the August 8th will be the last day to get it. But I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get these volumes, but you can still get this one, which is kind of like a Nexus meets Galactus and the Silver Surfer. And it has a bunch of other things in it too. I was one of the people who bought the news strips, which are even bigger than this. They were literally even bigger than this. So if you were in, they wanted larger volume comic books, Steve Rude was going for it. But ultimately, I showed you that with my thing, we got all the covers as little plates here, painted plates. I mean, they're reprinted, but they're not actually painted, but you have all the covers here. I did buy the comic books off the stands, so, but actually, one of them was actually damaged. See, it says the stars here. Oh, so this is 12 by 17. I think the more recent one of this is going to be smaller. It's going to be 9 by 12. I think that's what it's going to be. So it's not going to be as big as this, but it's going to be, and it's still done in just news strip style. So it'll be cool to see it a little bit larger, but not as large as this. This one is a cool one to have, but definitely the next. Actually, I don't know. I probably want the bigger one, but basically, I don't want to give you any of the story because it's really interesting. We find out what happens to Dave. We also find out what happens to Judah the Hammer, the son of Dave, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on in here. And the sad part is that Steve Rude and Mike Baron, they are doing Nexus. They've split up. They are not, Steve Rude is writing it. Surprisingly, a person who hasn't necessarily written a comic, he has a good, decent flair for dialogue. What I've read, it seems pretty good. So that works out. And at the same time, the sad part leads us to two separate Nexus books. We have books from Mike Baron. I think he's on his second mini. He also worked with Steve Rude on this, but he changed some of the scripts. So then Mike Baron did his own version of this, and they both got Nexus books going on. So if you watch Rude Dude movie and you were sad, be happy. We're getting more Nexus. Hopefully the family is doing well. And since I've already showed you that stuff, the artist Steve Rude, I have a bunch of these, not the same ones, of these, all of his commissions and some of his sketches thrown in there also. I have a bunch of these in the house, and also have the digital versions. And, I just can't get enough of Steve Rude. So he's a great artist. He has, even though he's a big Kirby guy, he has a lot of John Romita in his work. So he has a lot of, who is it? Obviously the classic fine artists, which I can't call to now, but some Alex Toth in there, the guy who does Magnus, Russ Manning. There's a lot of that, but it's kind of more the cleaner artist. But then, he's a big fan of Kirby, and also some of the suspense of Paul Galassi. You can't forget Paul Galassi. But then there's some nice, it's kind of, it would have been kind of great to see him do a Green Lantern series, but he's famously known for his Hulk, Superman versus Hulk, just with Roger Stern. So, there you go. These are all things you should check out. I think I'll try to leave a link so you can go to his sites, check out all this stuff, and you could possibly get some old volumes too. But yeah, there we go. If you go from this to this and to this, it's interesting that he definitely has the sensibilities. Both Mike Baron and him have the sensibilities of the 80s creators. So the sense of tragedy that you would see in the 80s comic book that kind of birthed from the stuff that Stanley and Jack were doing, but they weren't doing, they were just on the edge of the tragedy. and the people like, was it Byrne, Walter Simonson, Frank Miller, you know, Chris Claremont, that sort of tragedy. You have that in this Battle for Thuneworld. So I think that's as much as I can say about this, and definite fan. And check it out if you get a chance. Spin Rack out.